I want to start this episode asking you a few questions, all right? What if Harriet Tubman cared more about her freedom than the freedom of all the black slaves that she freed through the Underground Railroad? What if Frederick Douglass cared about his freedom in successfully escaping the plantation in Maryland, being an educated black man in America? What if he cared more about that than becoming an abolitionist who fought for the freedom of black slaves, educating black people who were uneducated? What if Martin Luther King cared more about and decided to, you know what? I don't want to be a part of the civil rights movement. I just want to run my church and live my life. What if Rosa Parks decided to give up her seat instead of standing up and sparking the fire for the civil rights movement, being the true mother for the civil rights movement, knowing that she's not going to get the attention that she deserves. She'll never get the recognition that she deserves for being a person who really started the civil rights movement. What if Malcolm X decided to continue to be Malcolm Little rather than become Malcolm X and provoke the minds of millions and thousands of black people to understand who they truly are, where's their true worth, and what they should stand for? What if the Black Panther Party never was assembled to help protect black people from police brutality? What if they never created the free lunch program? How many people would have went starving? These are questions I got to ask you in 2019 as we still deal with similar issues in the civil rights movement. See, a lot of us have decided that the civil rights movement was over once segregation ended, once we were allowed to go to the same schools. But we didn't realize, or many of us didn't realize, the civil rights movement is still alive and well. And there's a lot more work that needs to be done. But so many of us is not interested to put up the fight for the civil rights movement because honest to God, truth is, we're worried about our lives. Well, so did Martin Luther King. I'm sure he worried, but he wanted to raise his family. I'm sure he wanted to see his kids grow up. I'm sure on that balcony, he didn't want to get shot by a sniper. Allegedly James Earl Ray, but there's a whole nother day. There's a whole nother subject. I'm sure he would want to be more than just a quote that people put on their emails, but don't truly understand his message, what he stood for, who don't really support the values that he stood for, don't really support the mindset he stood for. I'm sure Malcolm X would prefer to see his family, his children grow up, rather than be killed by his own kind, his own people, in front of his family. I'm sure Rosa Parks would have enjoyed the recognition that she truly deserves as being not only the mother of the civil rights movement, but the person who sparked the civil rights movement by making one decision, by sitting in her seat and standing her ground. Whether it was decided before or not that she would do it, the fact of the matter is she had the courage to it. Tupac had some famous lyrics I love from a song called Ghetto Gospel. If they take it all back, will I still be able to keep the courage? And I ask you, what courage lives inside you today as we still celebrate the Black History Month, or should I say African American History Month? What courage lives inside you? Who are you truly ready to fight for? Are you really ready to fight for your children's future? Because see, Mike Brown's mother, she would love to see her son grow into be the man that she knew he could be. Eric Gardner, Sandra Bland, and so many other black people, Trayvon Martin. Their parents would rather not bury their children, but to continue to celebrate birthdays and celebrate their lives. But see, when you look at Mike Brown and how he was murdered, and you see the police department come in front of the camera and speak about his unjustifiable murder, what they talk about is that he was a suspect in a possible strong-arm robbery. But what they don't talk about is that he came from a high school where 62% of the students in high school dropped out of high school and didn't graduate. And that he represented 48 percentile where he graduated high school, that he had a bright future, that he had a chance to be somebody, that he overcame the odds. But that's not the focus. Because see, many of our children are painted with a black brush. And we're painted with the words that justify us to be murdered. See, because they're not going to highlight what we did right. They're going to exaggerate what we did wrong. Did that catch your attention yet, or am I boring you yet? If I'm boring you, I apologize. If I'm not giving enough energy to you, I apologize. But this is a serious subject because, see, a lot of us right now, we're dealing with issues and we don't even know it. We're dealing with inequality and we don't even know it. Our civil rights, our children's civil rights are being affected and we don't even know it. Malcolm X died for us. Martin Luther King died for us. Rosa Parks put her life on line for us. Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass. What about the Freedom Riders? I'm pretty sure that they would rather not have dogs sicked on them, been spit on, beaten, just so you can sit at a counter and enjoy a restaurant. So you don't have to pick up your meal at a back door. We need to celebrate the people that came before us instead of trying to validate their history. Because see, when I look at social media, that's what I see a lot of. We're trying to validate the history of the people who came before us, but we don't celebrate them. But we also have to understand that these people, they took the beatings. They were shot by water hoses. They were killed. They were assassinated. Also, we don't have to be. So it's more than our right to just celebrate their lives, but it's we need to continue on their legacy. We sit here and we talk about we don't want to vote because it didn't make a difference by these people that came before us, marched and died for us to have the right to vote. Because they understood the difference that our power and our words and our voices mean, and to make changes for not only our future, but our children's future. As your children are going to school right now, watch what's happening. Watch what's happening. Watch how decisions they make are going to affect their lives. Watch how your children they already have made a decision about your children, that your child is not going to Harvard. Your child's not going to Yale. That a 15-minute test will tell them more about your children than you can tell them about your children in 10, 20, 18 years. In 24 hours you spend with your children, they can tell you more about your child in their future in 15 minutes than you can in the 24 hours you spend with your children. You wonder about your children's future. You wonder about your children, about your future. You wonder about African-American history. Then wonder about this. We sit here bowing with the NFL. We're protesting the NFL. And don't get me mixed up. Don't get it confused. I'm not defending the NFL. But let me state some facts to you. While we sit here focused on protesting the NFL, because they're not supporting us in the fact that we have black people dying in the community. We're protesting them. We're protesting the NFL. But think about this for a second. How many black men and women died on the NFL field by police? How many people were shot on the NFL field by police? I'll answer that question for you. 0. So where's our issue with the NFL for? Our issue should still be to fight for our rights and equality. And I'm not talking about violence against police. I'm talking about standing up for justice, educating ourselves, continuing to protest. Continue to push in elections so we can get the right people in to make the right changes. Because without change, we're stuck dealing with the same issues we're dealing with. We keep focusing on narrative rather than the problem. And once again, it's not to promote any sort of violence, because violence only commits other violence and justify you being murdered. So what you need to do is educate yourself and understand what's happening. You're focusing on Russian emails. But what does a Russian email's contents, what does it say? Does it talk about black people being murdered? They're planning to kill black people? Does it talk about, isn't a Russian emails there evidence that proves that Eric Gardner or Mike Brown or Sandra Bland was murdered by police officers? Is that what's in them Russian emails? Because if it's not, then why is that your focus? Is that in the scripts of the NFL? Why are you focused on narrative than the facts? This question you should be asking yourself as you celebrate African American history. We're going to talk about food stamps on another show. But the government shutdown really shook a lot of y'all up, didn't it? Because for once you couldn't afford to feed your family, you were in danger of losing something that helps take care of you every day. But isn't the time now to stop focusing on leaning on these government programs and learning to lean on yourself? Creating knowledge and education so you can take care of your family and not have expectations that someone can take something from you? If we're going to celebrate African American history, we need to really focus on it. We need to really celebrate it. Not through quotes of Martin Luther King, where people quote him in their emails and stuff, but don't ultimately stand up for the values and understand true values that he had. The message that he was trying to say. So you use his quotes, but don't understand his words and don't respect and don't stand behind or for the words that you're putting into these quotes or you putting on your email because it sounds good, but what do you really know about that man? What do you know about the Poor Man March? What do you know about the fact that he was trying to bring black people and white people together to focus on something that poor people in general have an issue? We talk about black history, but how much do you know about it? Of course, you don't want to hear about the Jim Crow law. I'm not even going to talk about Jim Crow laws because you're not interested in that. We got an issue about Gucci and blackface. We got an issue about it. And we wonder, why should we protest it? What are we going to do with protesting? Well, the boycott of bus systems showed that protesting can be effective. Rosa Parks showed us that if we stand together in solidarity, that we can make a change. But that's the key word there. Can we stand in solidarity? Can we stand together, people? Can we stop? We took so many L's as black people that we celebrate any W we get. Think about it. We took so many L's that we celebrate any W. All of us knew in the black community that O.J. Simpson did it. But we took so many L's, whether it's the Emmett Till trial or in so many other trials where black people were unjustifiably killed or locked up, that we took a W. We accepted that W. We accept any W we can get because of all the L's we took. And it's the same thing with the civil rights movement right now. We celebrate all these W's, these little W's that we get because of all the big L's that we suffered. That's not what the people who came for us wanted. They don't want us to take up arms and create violence. They don't want us to have an issue with the police. We get it. We need the police department. But we also need justice. We need respect. We need to feel protected as we go out in these communities or go out in our communities. That's what we really need. And see, we need to judge people by their character and not by their position. Just because somebody has a badge on don't mean they're a good person. Just because a person's wearing a hoodie don't mean they're bad. So if I put this hoodie on, it doesn't mean that I'm a bad person or I'm a threat to you. This doesn't mean that I'm out to kill you. Just because a badge doesn't mean that you're a good person. Just because you're a pastor don't mean that you're not going to try to take advantage of me. Just because you're a manager don't give you no right to think you're more superior than a person. See, we got to judge people based on their character and not on their position, not on who they think they are. But that's the mistake we made. That's the mistake we made. And as black people, one of the things we forgot is who you are, what you are. Forgot about how important your voice is. See, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, all these Rosa Parks, all these people were great figures in black history. But what you have to also understand that none of these figures will truly have their power without the power and the support of the people behind them and that stood behind what their message was. That's where the true power comes in. The true power lies in you. So you can sit here and say your vote don't matter. But if it doesn't matter, then why are they trying to suppress your vote? Ask yourself something. Think a little bit more logically. Why are they pushing the agenda that you should focus on the narrative of the NFL not supporting their players? Think about this. How much is your job supporting you in the activities that's happening in the community? How many your people jobs out here right now? Think about it. How many of your jobs are truly supporting what you're doing? Or are they standing up and supporting the fact that black people getting killed? Are they giving you time off to march and protest? Or are they paying you? Because if they're not, why are you not protesting your job? I'll wait. Oh, because you still need your money. You still got to provide for your family, right? So if you're not going to hold yourself and your job accountable, you need to think about who else you're holding accountable and why are you holding other people accountable. See, accountability is the most important thing in this factor. We got to hold ourselves accountable into a standard where we're going to speak up and we're going to stand up and we're not going to take these lowercase w's just to suppress these. Or I'm sorry, we're not going to take these lowercase w's to suppress the fact that we have suffered so many big L's. And what I mean by big L's, I don't mean the rapper, I mean big losses that we've been talking. Because we've been talking so many big losses in the black community that we're willing to take those lowercase w's, or should I say wins. And that's where we need to stop. We need to stand and march and speak up until we reach justice. Not until it dies down or becomes unpopular trend on Facebook or social media. Because that's not what it's about. It's about protecting our children. A lot of times as black people, what we choose to do is, and I hope I didn't lose you yet, and I'm going to keep this episode short, just like Black History Month. But a lot of times as black people, what we do is, we try to protect our children after they're dead and not before they're dead. Oh, think about that for a second. We're trying to protect Mike Brown, Eric Gardner after they died and not before they died. Think about that. As I end this episode, Just think about that for a second. How many people are you going to try to protect after they've been killed? When truly in your mind you know before they were murdered there was something you could do about it. How many times are we going to validate the true mission and the work of the people who came before us, the people who died and fell on swords to protect us? They took the bullets, took the water hoses, took the bites from the dogs, took the beatings so that you don't have to. See, Black History Month may be put in February, but you can celebrate Black history and history in general every single day of the year. It's up to you whether you want to do that. The important thing is to not only know your history, but educate your children on history and stop educating them on the bad things that other people believe about and the perceptions they have about them. Because think about this for a second, and keep this real short and get off here. A lot of things we teach our children lead to the decisions they make. You tell your daughters when a little boy hit them on the playground that that's their way of showing love to you, or they like you. And then you wonder why your daughters are growing up in these abusive relationships where they're getting beat up and they think that love is when a man beat on them, because that's what you taught them. A lot of times you're teaching your children that if they're light-skinned, that they're more beautiful, and if they're darker-skinned, that they're not as beautiful. And you wonder why they grow up with these thoughts and this separation against black and light-skinned. You teach your children that they can't go to Yale and Harvard, and you wonder why they grow up with this mindset that they can't become that. That there's no way they can become a lawyer, a doctor, a president. You wonder why they already adopt that mindset. We teach our children more about smoking weed than we do about reading books. You think about it for a second. Racism and hate is taught in the home. So are other things. So as you're sitting at the dinner table with your children, and when you're talking to your children, think about this. What are you truly teaching them? Are you truly teaching them to hate others? Or are you teaching them to hate themselves? Because at the end of the day, no matter who you are, where you are, what's your social class, we all are teaching our children something. Let's celebrate history and Black history all year long. It's the Past to Present Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Gray. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to my channel. If you like the video, like it, comment. I will always comment back to you. Please, let's open the room for dialogue. I'm keeping this episode short, and I'm ending with this. Stay tuned, stay educated, stay woke. Peace.